Hello folks, and welcome to episode 2 of Renegade Radio, the only place that does RCW and shit. Yeah, I don't have slogans, I haven't even got notes for this one. This one is just shooting from the hip and all that bollocks. Maybe even shooting from the bollocks and all that hip. This one covers RCW Year 1, and by that I mean the first year of RCW, not the first year since I played it, because obviously it started in WWE 12, as I mentioned in my last episode, and it's running through to 2K14, so it would technically be 4 years, 3 years even. This covers everything that happened storyline wise and match wise in the first year, and how it came about. I mentioned in the last episode that RCW came about in WWE 12 when its universe mode allowed you to create arenas and brands, which was a cool feature. It was, at the time, it's strange, at the time I didn't even cross my mind to relaunch ECWA doing this. It would have been so much more, it would have been more predictable, I think, if I'd done it that way. Had a proper ECWA arena with ECWA wrestlers and shit. What happened instead is kind of an amalgamation of all that. The first thing I did was drop the Hell's Guardian character. I went with the Desirous character, which came in later, which wasn't a reboot, it was another side of Hell's Guardian. But within this this reboot, there was no Hell's Guardian past. The past of Desirous is BWA and UWA, which is what I'll get to on another cast. The BWA stuff anyway. There's a lot of stuff I'm missing from UWA that I don't know that much about. So yeah, WWE 12 rolls around, create an arena, create a brand, use that arena and brand in universe mode. Yeah, let's go for it. I was thinking of a name for a while because, I hadn't thought to use ECWA, and settled on Renegade Championship Wrestling, which is what it is today, RCW. And I know I needed a roster, and there was something about Wilf, even though Ben didn't know him, and I hadn't recorded any footage of Wilf's WWE matches or anything, but Ben wanted him, probably based on the way I put him over and stuff when we chatted. Ben being my best friend from Butlins, co-founder of BWA. He has a channel, Radicaz, simple as. But yeah, so I knew that I needed to get Wilf on side with RCW, and so I offered him the RCW Championship, first RCW Champion. That, coupled with the fact that we live about 5 minutes away from each other, and that, pretty much sealed the deal. So, I had Wilf, I had myself, who had been retired in UWA, because technically Desirous can't compete in UWA. And I had a host of other guys, like some of the guys. Wong McDonald was one that I used in the NXT part of the last part of my WWE career thing I was doing. Wong McDonald was an NXT guy. So was Robbie Flash, but he was UWA. He was another one that jumped ship. Boshak jumped ship. Boshak, ex-BWA, and also ex-UWA, along with Ash Kitchen. But Wong McDonald was an original character I created. Jacob Black was NXT as well, I think. Yeah. I really should have done this Year 1 episode in Year 1. I can remember shit. The Scots. Jared Scott was a former WWE champion on SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. He was actually in a tag team with Boshak and Scorpion, and he won the WWE Championship. I've just introduced Landon, his brother, in NXT Season 2. Season T? They're made-up characters, the Scots are. So, you know, that, I had a solid roster without even, this was before I began dipping into the ACWA alumni, so to speak. I had the likes of Wilf and no Radicaz at first. I had the likes of Wilf and Desirus and Dragasan and the Scots, Martin Corby, Boshak, Robbie Flash, Richard Parrish, Omega, etc., etc. I had a solid foundation on which to build. Of course, WWE 12, not without its faults and its glitches, like how Cores didn't class as roster members, you still had to have 15 real guys, and then eventually they patched that, but even so, Universe Mode still kept putting Wong McDonald and Layla against Ted DiBiase and Michelle McCool, and Christian Fox against Mark Henry. A lot of editing, match-wise, was needed back then. So I had it all planned out. The show name Revolution came from BWA Revolution. You know, I recycled an old concept. Funny considering BWA is canon with RCW now. And came up with basic storylines for the first couple of months. It was just a case of establishing the wrestlers and showing the talent, even though I didn't have YouTube, but showing the talent to myself and Wilf. And establishing champions, building on the championships. We had the hardcore title, we had the RCW Championship and the World Tag Team Championships. And so I did like tournaments. There was no tournament mode on that game, so I made it up. Wilf won the tournament to become the first RCW champion. The Megastars, Omega and Richard Parrish, won the World Tag Team Championships, and I believe bollocks, who was it? I think Disco Dave. Yes, Disco Dave was the first hardcore champion. Did not see that coming. Disco Dave's an ECWA alumni type character, one that a guy that I'd known from when I worked at Fantasy Island. I reused his character. He was one of the few that I used initially. There's more now, but he was one of the first. We got the roster built. Tyler Harris and Travis Taylor were ex-NXT WWE ones that I used as well. And it was a case of establishing their roles. I had a good mix of wrestlers that I could do. People that I knew from living here in Melton, people that I knew from living back in Lincolnshire. And there was a good blend of stuff, people that I don't know at all because they don't exist. Yeah, so I had a decent roster to begin with. I needed pay-per-views as well, because I started RCW in the January of Universe, but didn't do a pay-per-view until the end of March. I want to kind of keep the WrestleMania thing going in March, but unlike ECWA, I came up with a new pay-per-view name, Uprising. And so I set about creating arenas, and I had the Revolution Arena. And basically the arenas back then, you couldn't edit the stage, you could only edit the ringside area. So all the stages looked the same. On WWE 13, you had the option to edit certain stages. However, I kept, as close as I could, the original stages. I might have edited them a little bit, but I kept the initial stage design. Because I wanted it to, the stages to change for a reason or something, and they will change soon. And so, there was no heat wave back then. It was just the one show with 3 titles and monthly pay-per-views, the first being Uprising. I made my RCW debut on the Revolution before Uprising. And I won the World Tag Team Championships with Dragasan. And then he turned on me. This was the whole unit. He couldn't turn off stories in the universe either. So, Dragasan or injuries or anything like that. So, it was trial and error. I'd have to play the hands I was dealt in some instances, and that, like Dragasan turning on me, we were still tag team champions, but I knew we'd need to drop the belt. We dropped the belts to Justin and Alex Cash, who are two of John Calman's NLW guys. They came over for a while. They're back now. Again, they tend to just go between shows, between companies. Yeah, in terms of loyalty bonuses, they'd get none. Brought the Cashes in. Uprising was it was big in the sense that it was the first pay-per-view I did, and it really went some way to establishing it. Wilf defeated Boshak. Boshak's obviously the veteran, the bigger name, if you will, from previous companies. Wilf retained his RCW championship. Me and Dragasan beat Omega and Parrish. That didn't last long. I think he turned on me at Anarchy. Yeah. Yes, Corby was the first we have 4 champions, so we had the Intercontinental Championship. Corby was the first Intercontinental Champion. He retained against Robbie Flash. Those two are now a tag team. Team Amazing, but they started out as enemies. Yeah, I didn't acknowledge their previous histories or anything. Like, Desaris isn't a 79,000 time world champion. Jared Scott's never been world champion. Stuff like that. Came to around about April, and I brought in Jay Cassidy, who was the Jacob Cass guy that I'd used in the Road to WrestleMania story. Changed his name because it wouldn't let me call him Jacob Cass. I basically used his template that I used in that story mode and transferred it over. New character, fresh out of RCWA, the Academy, which is now a thing. At first it was just something made up. The Academy star, Jay Cassidy, and that. And I brought him in. April through May, I had my feud with Dragasan, which I lost at Hellbound. The May pay-per-view, I lost an Inferno match. Wilf was still the champion. The RCW champion. The hardcore title was a bit of a hot potato situation. It's the more hot potato of the championships back then. Mind you, the Intercontinental Championship changed hands a few times between Corby and Paul Haynes, but it was mainly between them two. I think they've both got a couple of IC title reigns, and that the hardcore title went from Disco Dave to Ross Lee, who retained it Uprising, and then it went to Wong McDonald. Wong actually won the hardcore title at Cybermania, first one. Incidentally, Wong McDonald is my opponent for the hardcore championship at the next Cybermania. Yeah. He only had the title for a month. He lost it to Dragasan, who then held the title throughout the rest of the year. Corby lost the Intercontinental Championship at Cybermania, I believe. Haynes, yes, because Haynes was the only one to retain a championship at Summerfest. And that's where I went with the whole Mr. Summerfest thing that you don't know about because none of this was put on YouTube. Basically, Paul Haynes won the Intercontinental Championship and he lost it. No, he lost it eventually, but he was the only champion to retain at Summerfest. After the Dragasan thing, I was feuding with the industry because, you know, 2 ex-UWA guys trying to recruit another ex-UWA guy, but they were heels and I wasn't having any of it. I said no, and I ended up in a tag team match at Summerfest. Desaris and newcomer Scorpion, former UWA World Champion, I think has held the title about 9 times, 9-time World Champion, against Boshak and Robbie Flash. The month previously, at Cybermania, I'd won the first Money in the Bank match, so I had a guaranteed world title shot. Or a guaranteed any title shot, really. There was one of those other bugs on WWE 12 where I could only cash in on the actual WWE title. Bear in mind there was no Creator Championship back then, so it was a case of use the actual belts and pretend they were RCW belts. Wilf's RCW Championship was the Attitude Era WWE title, the big belt with not the one that came after Winged Eagle. The Stone Cold got given it after he beat Shawn Michaels at 14. That's how I'll put it. Wilf had that as the RCW Championship, but in order to cash in, I would have had to have switched back to the spinner. Like I said, I wasn't filming this at that point. Still images was the best I could do because my laptop was shit. But yeah, I won that at Money in the Bank, the Money in the Bank match at Cybermania, sorry. Tyler Harris had turned face and joined the Rough Riders, which was Wilf's first faction with Sean O'Savory, Steinmetz, and Ross Lee. They were the Rough Riders. You had 3 BWA guys and Wilf, and then Harris joined later, only to turn on Wilf, and that set up their championship match at Summerfest, which Wilf lost. Yes, there was 3 championship changes at Summerfest. The Cashes were the ones that beat me and Dragasan for the World Tag Team Championships on an episode of Revolution in April. They held the titles until Summerfest, where they lost to the Scots, and then the Cashes left for the first time. Wong McDonald had won the Hardcore Championship at Cybermania from Ross Lee in I think it was either a Fatal 4-Way or a Triple Threat. I don't know offhand. But Wong McDonald had won the Hardcore Championship, and he lost it at Summerfest to Dragasan. Wilf had lost the RCW Heavyweight Championship to Tyler Harris, and Paul Haynes had retained against Martin Corby, I believe. And then so going through from that basically covers Uprising Anarchy, which is the April pay-per-view, Bloodshed in May, and Hellbound June, Cybermania July. Yes, because me and Dragasan had another successful defence at Bloodshed, even though we weren't on the same page. And then so we're going into September, we're going into Doomsday, and it's more cases of deal the hands that Universe deals you and all that shit. Wilf was supposed to be RCW's top guy, top face, and I'm in a match with Boshak, and Wilf comes out and attacks me. Universe had turned Wilf heel, RCW's top face. They'd turned him heel. Now this was a bit of a ball ache at first, but you know, they say things happen for a reason. Maybe things do happen for a reason, but sometimes you've got to make that reason yourself. So Wilf turned on me. I wasn't planning on cashing in Money in the Bank for a very long time, but there was something here that I felt would, you know, he's the champion, he attacked me. Later on that night, in the main event of Doomsday, Wilf regained the RCW Championship. You know what's coming, don't you? Not immediately. I mean, a couple nights after, about a week later, I did another show called Scramble City, which is basically the 3 championships were defended in scramble matches. And you know, I simulated the 2 of them, where I think Gary Gibb won the Intercontinental Championship at Scramble City, Hardcore Harry was 10 seconds away from winning the Hardcore title, but Dragosan retained, and Wilf retained his RCW Championship. Tag title stayed on the Scots. Cash-in was coming. Did it on Revolution after I switched the belt to the spinner, cashed in on Wilf, and won the RCW Championship. It doesn't go on to my 79 million WWE Championship reigns, but it does go on to my BWA and UWA Championship reigns. So I'm RCW Champion. There's still the whole Harris-Wilf feud, but Wilf's heel, Harris's heel. Fight for Survival, no, Halloween Horror, sorry, is the next pay-per-view. And, you know, for that one night only, I used Burn by The Cure as my entrance music. The song from The Crow. Thought it was kind of fitting. And it's an awesome song. So I'm going into this match. Wilf now has face paint at this, but he didn't have face paint originally. Wilf's character is becoming more darker. Which is something we had to design. He was initially going to lose the championship, and then it was going to take a darker route but stay as a face. That all went out the window when he fucked up my Doomsday match. I won, but, you know, it wasn't ideal. Another thing that Universe did was they sent Ross Lee out to interfere in Wilf's title match with Tyler Harris, even though Ross was still a face. So I faced off against Wilf and Harris in a triple threat match at Halloween Horror and retained, which is all yay good and all that. And I began running this little thing where the fans weren't happy and the fans were accusing me of being like RCW's Jeff Jarrett or something. So I wanted to turn heel at some point. And I thought, well, make up this bullshit that the fans aren't happy, that they think I haven't earned the title and everything, even though I went through a ladder match and got betrayed by Will, so, you know, just desserts, payback's a bitch and all that. But that wouldn't happen for a while. But I was kind of running like these little things on Facebook and that in the group. Because we did interviews and stuff, because it was all like part of one universe. We'd do interviews and we'd do rumours and promos and shit like that, and we still do. And so we come out of Halloween Horror. Gibbs still Intercontinental Champion. I'm still RCW Champion. Scots are still Tag Team Champions. Dragosan's still the Hardcore Champion. Dragosan being a heel at this point. Roscoe Quinn's the babyface owner. Travis Taylor's in the industry with Boshak and Robbie Flash. Parrish and Omega are a face tag team at this point. Wong McDonald, nothing's really happening for Wong McDonald. I do this thing. I did this thing at the end of year 1 called Tough 20. Which was like my Power 25, but it was an annual thing. It was like Power Slam's PS50, but I did 20 instead, because they didn't have 50 guys at that point. Ranking them, not just based on wins, losses, but future potential, character, and stuff like that. It's amazing how much of it is different and how wrong I've been in some of it. Because when I did the Tough 20, I didn't rate Wong McDonald that highly. Wilf won it, followed by, I think, Sean O'Savory and Dragosan or something. Or it might have been Dragosan. I think I was third in the Tough 20. But yeah, there was this... Wong McDonald's facing me at Cybermania and is in a better position now than he was last year. It's just one of those weird things where I write this shit and even I can't predict how it's going to go. Of course, the next pay-per-view, it's one of the big ones. It's an ex-ECWA name, Fight for Survival, which is basically RCW Survivor Series. And at this point, RCWA's become a thing. It's not just this thing that I talk about. I've made a new save, a separate game save with new wrestlers. I've put Bradley in there. Bradley's like 6 in June, but I've created a character for him. You got Jacob Black in a tag team. We've got other ex-ECWA guys, because around about August I debuted some more ex-ECWA guys, rebooted them, Hardcore Howie, Arnie Sharp, Gary Gibb. Put a few more in the academy, Nick Blueberry, TJ Gospel, some other guys that I'd used from the WWE runs that went in there as well, Jason Hammond. Excuse me. RCWA was the thing, with its own arena and its own show on a separate save. It goes on Tuesday nights, but no, the universe wouldn't let you use blank days during WWE 12, so I had to put it on the Monday and then pretend, as you do with a lot of things on these games. Yeah, RCWA was becoming a thing. It was real. It was damn real. I thought I'd bring a couple of guys up, because I'd had seen Christian Fox, ex-BWA, but back in BWA, in the original BWA, his name was CDN Fox. Christopher David Nathan or something, or Daniel Nathan, something like that. But Ben was using the CDN Fox name in UWA. Now I wanted to use Fox, but the thing is, Ben, his CDN Fox looked nothing like Chris, whereas mine somewhat resembles him. Mine resembles him more. So I just messaged Ben, I was like, look, your Fox is nothing like the actual Fox, so I'm going to bring him in but with an altered name, and hence Christian Fox came about. He was in this feud over the RCWA Championship with CW Longley, who was my old English teacher from school. Yeah, I've recently got in touch with an old school friend again, and so there was renewed memories and shit like that. I had these two on. They was doing exhibition matches on RCW on Revolution. They'd do like the dark match, or they'd do an exhibition match, or the main evented Renegade once with the RCWA title on the line. And going into Fight for Survival, I had the Blood Brothers versus... No, it wasn't the Blood Brothers. That was my title. Wilf and Steinmetz, basically, against the Rough Riders of Savory and Ross. They'd kept the Rough Rider name, and all the Rough Riders, because Wilf was a heel, Steinmetz had sided with him, Savory and Ross had gone against them. They were still faces. That was the opportunity I was presented with, to build new babyface stars like Ross Lee and Sean O'Savory. And I was kind of at two minds who would main event Uprising 2, O'Savory or Ross. I basically played a bunch of matches and to determine which one would have the better match, and O'Savory won all of them. So that's why O'Savory main evented Uprising 2. But going back to Fight for Survival, I thought, well, I'll pair each RCWA guy with one of the teams. So Wilf and Steinmetz had Fox on their side, and Ross and Fox being the heel, Ross and O'Savory would have Longley on their side, Longley being the face. And Longley turned heel on Ross after the victory. Oh, fuck off. So now I've got this thing where I'm trying to build up Longley as like the next big face, like the upcoming babyface sensation, and he's turned heel. It did provide another opportunity though, because as you saw at Uprising 2, Ross Lee defeated CW Longley for the Intercontinental Championship. A championship that Longley beat Gary Gibb for at Christmas Carnage. I think he beat Gary Gibb. Yes, I'm pretty sure he did. At Fight for Survival I retained against Tyler Harris. Dragason retained his Hardcore Championship. The Scots retained the Tag Team Championship. I don't think there was a title change at Fight for Survival. There was at Christmas Carnage though. I was running this thing where I was getting stressed and, you know, fatigue, and the fans were turning on me. Dragasan was still attacking me because he was a dick. Tyler Harris was attacking me. Did this thing where I'd reach breaking point, and at Christmas Carnage, it all built up and got too much, and I lost the RCW Championship to Tyler Harris. It was his second reign. And I'm going to extend this to year 2, through to Uprising. This will be year 1. 15 months of year 1. Only in RCW, folks. Also at Christmas Carnage, Riches 2 Bitches and Dirty Dino, ex-ECWA guys, defeated the Scots for the World Tag Team Championships. CW Longley won the Intercontinental Championship. Dragasan was the only one to retain a title that year, at that pay-per-view. You could call him Mr. Christmas Carnage, or not. So it comes to the end of the year. I did this thing where I did this triple threat match between the inaugural champions. Also at Christmas Carnage, I was building like this mini feud to like fall off of the Fight for Survival thing. It was Wilf against O'Savoury and Ross Lee against Steinmetz. O'Savoury and Ross both won their matches because I was building them as the next single stars. And we're into January now, and my god, fuck me. It was a clusterfuck, January was, with what Universe threw at me. Injuries that I didn't even have enough wrestlers to fucking fill up a Renegade Rumble. A 30-man Royal Rumble match. I had to draft guys from the RCWA just to fill up the spots. I had to bring in guys that I only used for a laugh just to fill up the spots. Betty. If you've never seen Kung Pao, A, you should watch it, and B, I'll give an explanation for Betty. Kung Pao's this intentionally badly dubbed Hong Kong movie. It takes this old Hong Kong film, Tiger Fist Up Your Ass or something, and dubs over it extremely badly. The main guy, the guy that created it, photoshopped himself into the role of the, not photoshopped, green screened himself into the role of the lead protagonist, and the antagonist was a guy called Master Payne, who then decided, from this day forward, you shall now refer to me by the name Betty. Nya. And I just found it fucking hilarious. I loved that film, and for a laugh one day, I made Betty. I did a core of Betty. And Betty is now an RCW regular on the Heatwave brand. But that was the case. I had Hardcore Howie injured. I had Dragasan injured. I injured Dragasan a week before the Renegade Rumble because I had planned on taking time off until then, and then returning, and I interfered in one of Dragasan's matches and injured the bastard. I was torn about this actually. I could have just copied Dragasan into another character slot and carried on from there, but then people were like, no, just run with it, so I ran with it, and the plan was at Uprising 2, I was going to finally get my victory over Dragasan. It was going to be babyface Desirus against heel Dragasan, finally slaying the dragon, so to speak, getting revenge for all the shit it put me through. Another match that was supposed to happen at Uprising 2 was Paul Haynes against CW Longley for the Intercontinental Championship. Haynes was injured. All these guys made it back in time for Uprising, but I couldn't be sure of that, so I had to change my plans, because it doesn't tell you how long they're going to be out. I mean, this ain't the primitive SmackDown vs. Raw where it tells you, folks. So Dragasan's injured, Howe is injured, Haynes is injured. I drafted over TJ Gospel and Robinson Lassiter from the RCWA. They'd just started doing a proper weekly show thing in January. I debuted that properly in January. Christian Fox was the RCWA champion. He lost that belt to TJ Gospel at the Renegade Rumble. Gospel went into the Renegade Rumble as RCWA champion. I knew who was going to win. Who I wanted to win, because, you know, games, shit, unpredictable. It's just a case of filling out the spots. So, Betty was in the Renegade Rumble, along with Christian Fox and CW Longley. TJ Gospel and, Robinson Lassiter, sorry. Now, goes into the Renegade Rumble, I'm thinking, yeah, they'll eliminate a few, win the match, you know. Sean O'Savoury came out at like number 7 or something. So, typically the best way to win a Royal Rumble match is to eliminate everybody. Because if the ring gets too crowded, you've got more chance of getting eliminated. So on the way to Sean O'Savoury's Renegade Rumble victory, he ends up with a record-setting, one that is probably unlikely to be broken for a while, 17 eliminations. O'Savoury eliminated 17 people in the first Renegade Rumble. That's like only 5 off Kane and Reigns put together. So yeah, I'd have liked to eliminated less, actually. Just so you know, but it went the way I wanted with O'Savoury, because I was pushing him as the next breakout star. Just not that breakout, man, come on. And so, we're heading into... Oh, I won the Hardcore Championship, the vacant Hardcore Championship at the Renegade Rumble. Defeated Brent Kitching and Arnie Sharp. And there was this, and I still hold that as I do this cast. A few things going on in February, heading up to Rage in the Cage. You got O'Savoury as the number 1 contender, Harris as the RCW champion, myself as Hardcore champion. I think Paul Haynes and Hardcore Howie and Dragasan all returned in February. Howie turned heel, Haynes didn't, Dragasan stayed heel. And we're building up to Uprising 2, and I know I couldn't really do the Dragasan thing because that was all done and dusted as far as that feud was going. So we reformed the Blood Brothers, but added Wilf and Steinmetz to it. So the Blood Brothers became a 4-man unit. Wilf and Steinmetz are heels, Dragasan's a heel, I'm a heel at this point. We've got O'Savoury as the number 1 contender, the Renegade Rumble winner. I knew what I was doing, I had a more clearer vision of Uprising 2. So I had Ross Lee become the number 1 contender to the Intercontinental Championship. He finally got his revenge against CW Longley. Dragasan I know I wanted to put in there because he was supposed to have a match against me. So I put him against Combat Matt. Myself, I ended up facing Disco Dave. I needed a challenger, and at this point the Blood Brothers are all about eliminating fun and trying to make people's lives a misery, so I put the most fun guy as my opponent, which would have been Disco Dave. Wilf and Steinmetz defeated the 2 Dirty Bitches for the Tag Team Championships. And there was this other little thing, a little UWA thing, where Razor Rob actually defeated KC Psycho to retain the UWA Championship on an RCW event. Add to that the fact that Roscoe Quinn booked himself in a match against the Industry, teaming with Scorpion and Griffin Abels, 2 more ex-UWA guys, and you had what would come in April, May, through to the present. All in all, RCW's year 1, to sum it up, it was interesting, it was hard at times, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Roll with the punches. Universe Mo threw me some stupid fucking bones, and I just had to make the most of it. which I think I did. Obviously now with 13 and 2K14, you're able to switch off injuries, switch off heel turns and face turns, switch off all that shit. And I've only actually played like 3 months on WWE13 because I've got that busy with other shit, and 2K14 has been problematic. I put that away for the longest time. I've put a WWE game away, but you know, I'm working back up to it. I'll be doing a Cybermania preview. I'm also going to do an episode on BWA. What exactly is it? I've touched upon it in certain things, but there's BWA stuff happening, so I feel I need to, you know, throw in an explanation for that. Anyway, that concludes this episode, RCW Year 1. If there's anything I've missed, or if you'd like to know anything more, throw a comment out. If you're listening to this, yay, thank you. If not, never mind. I've been Desirous Prime, and you shall hear me next time.